the sixth Sunday of Ordinary Time. And the last Ordinary Time for a while. This Wednesday we begin Ash Wednesday and the Lenten prayer. But today is also Super Bowl Sunday. A very important day in some parts of the country and some parts of the world, I suppose. And it's very interesting if you listen to the second reading today from the first letter to the Corinthians. It's kind of humorous because he says, whatever you do, whether you eat or you drink, do it all for the glory of God. And there's going to be a lot of eating and drinking because it's a big festival. I'm not sure if people like football or like eating or drinking or like the commercials, but it's a festival of sorts. So, can you imagine the millions of people eating and drinking and doing it for the glory of God? No. Just something humorous today. So more seriously, we have leprosy today. And we have Leviticus about what do you do if you have leprosy. And leprosy was a skin condition which was reflective or an externalization of sin. You must have been doing something wrong. You were a sinner, and so you got deafened or blinded or leprosy or crippled. And so Jesus was seen as healer a lot because he was the taker away of sins. So within the Leviticus context, the person with leprosy was an outsider, that the sin from inside manifested itself outside. And he had to stay, in the last verse, outside the camp. That's a very important term, outside the camp. Because in the gospel, and again it's in Mark's gospel, that Jesus has power over the forces of evil. So the forces of the evil ones, the power over sin, and the power over nature, winds. And he's always saying in one way, be still. So the man comes and he kneels down in front of Jesus, which of course was against the law. You were not supposed to be close to anybody. But he kneels down and he says, if you wish, you can make me clean. And Jesus, moved with pity, says, of course I wish to. That's a great Jesuit way of looking at Jesus, the increased intensity of Jesus saying, of course I want to. It's in him to be, not just to do, but his loving necessity, if you want to call it that, is always outgoing into whatever the condition is. So he's very close to this person who comes from outside the camp into the presence of Jesus. And in Mark's gospel, please don't tell anybody. Just show yourself to the priests and the law that you are clean and you belong inside the camp now. But he goes inside the camp and he does what Jesus asks him not to do. Don't make me public. Save that for the apostles. And then the word is publicizes. He makes it public. And in my prayer and in my imagination, his healing was all about him, not about Jesus. The report was that he was cured. Look at him. Where does Jesus go? Remember last week, he prayed in a deserted place to hear who he was, so that he could be who he was. He's outside the camp again. And the people came to him outside. Jesus is outside looking in. That's a very good way to understand Jesus. Jesus is outside looking in, asking us to look in. Now, it's a very easy gospel to say, oh, I have sin, I have these things I wish were healed, to concentrate on ourselves. It's better to let Jesus concentrate on who he is for us. And he asks us from outside to look inside, to look beyond the scabs and the leprosies, to not define ourselves by those leprosies, but how he sees us from outside, inside. Of course I want to. Of course I want to heal you so that you can live in the camp, in the community, because you went inside yourself. You let Jesus look inside yourself, heal. Of course I wish to. I want to. I have to. It's in me to do. I want to cure you not from what is outside, but I want to cure you from what is inside so that you can then go outside. And then everything you do, as Paul writes, so that everything you do will be for the glory of God. Now, maybe some people, playing the game will do this for the glory of God. But generally, human beings do it for the glory of themselves. The glory of God is perhaps one way to understand this unusual term, glory. Perhaps glory is revelation. Do everything you do for the revelation of the goodness of God within you. Let it out after you let it in. We are inside-out people. What is inside will eventually come out. We'll clap or cheer or cry, laugh. What is inside will come out. Jesus looks from outside into us, asks us to look inside so that we can be like Jesus, coming from our inside, to be relational, healing, communal, companionable. We don't do it for ourselves then, or at least not totally. It's hard to do anything without something of ourselves in it, but to the glory of God, to the greater revelation of the goodness of God that God has given me, because God says, of course I want to. Of course I want you to have an inside, blessed by me, healed by me, that in everything you do, like Paul, I want to be good to everyone at all times. He did it because he had been healed from inside. So we are asked to let Jesus in because Jesus wants to. Receive it well.